Got sort of an up-tempo R&B record by Lavern Baker. We'll talk about on Billboard's Hot 100 and Billboard's Hot 100 to date of this one. Gosh, there's a lot of Lost 45s on this one, as is true on all the other Hot 100s. This one is December 14th, 1959, Billboard's Hot 100, and we got Why by, oh my goodness, Frankie Avalon. He was on fire like you wouldn't believe. Why? It's in the top 5, went from number 95 to 53 to 24 to number 5 on Billboard's Hot 100 the week of December 14th, 1959. And The Mood by Ernie Fields did it almost note by note version of the original at number 4. Didn't know it got that high. Mac the Knife by Bobby Darin at number 3, down from number 1. Mr. Blue by the Fleetwoods. You know my favorite song by the Fleetwoods? Outside My Window. Remember that song? One of the most haunting songs. I believe it's Gary Troxell who was the lead singer, but I can't remember his name. But God, voice was incredibly haunting on that record. But we got Mr. Blue at number 2, and Heartaches by the Number by Guy Mitchell at number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100. But the song I want to talk to you about, Tiny Tim by Lavern Baker off the Atlantic record label at number 79, dropped from 75. From 63 to 75 to 79, Lavern Baker, love to clap. It's an up-tempo record. Lavern Baker, her real name Dolores Evans, although at times she was known as Dolores Williams. Some of her hit records: Tweedle Dee, I Cried a Tear, Jim Dandy. Jim Dandy came out in 1956 from Chicago. Started singing in the Chicago clubs in 1946. Started recording in the early 50s. Signed with Atlantic Records in 1953. Lavern Baker, and that's when she came out with Tweedly Dee and some of the other records. Saved, remember Saved, C.C. Ryder, which was later covered by Eric Burdon and the Animals, and also Jim Dandy Got Married. And this record, Tiny Tim, which came out in 1959. Tweedly, I think it was Tweedly Dee. Tweedly Dee did well for Lavern Baker, went to number 14 on the pop charts. But then Georgia Gibbs, although she did it note by note, a whitewash version of Tweedly Dee. Georgia Gibbs took it to number 1. And this happened well, you remember, if you go back to the 50s, you know the deal. A black artist would do a fantastic record. And then but it wouldn't necessarily be played on pop radio. It was considered race music. And I'm being diplomatic about it. And then a white artist, say Pat Boone or Georgia Gibbs or whoever, they did a white version of it. And the white version just blew up. Of course, that helped introduce the audience to the original, the R&B version, to keep it on the real version of the record. Well, anyway, Lavern Baker was not happy with the cover by Georgia Gibbs. She sued unsuccessfully. Lavern Baker even petitioned Congress to rule these covers, these whitewashed covers, including the cover of her record, Tweedly Dee, as illegal, or as a copyright violation, and that didn't work out. Well, anyway, we know the original, Lavern Baker, one of the great original R&B artists back in the 50s, going into the 60s. Now, I did a little research. I researched it was from a newspaper article. I believe it was based in Baltimore in 1959. Now, Lavern Baker married a comedian named Slappy White. They made a joint appearance in Kansas City that previous Christmas, and they announced their engagement. Slappy White was married to Pearl Bailey, and that marriage didn't work out. And Lavern Baker, it was her second marriage too. Her first marriage was with a government worker in Chicago, and that didn't work out. And when she got married, she was known at that time as Dolores Williams, married as Dolores Williams. Well, anyway, just a little bit of tidbit. We got Tiny Tim by Lavern Baker at number 79 on Billboard's Hot 100, December 14th, 1959.